This is Visions in the Rain, written by me, Todd Navistad. At the first crack of lightning, Carol began locking the windows. Seattle was famous for its storms, and this one would be no exception. Living here for so long, she was used to it. In her closet, she found her favorite sweater, larger than it needed to be and soft. She let her evening dress fall to the floor and didn't bother to put on pants. The sweater wrapped her like a blanket. The clouds broke suddenly, and torrents of rain fell. Her porch light hardly cast any light into their yard. She locked the front door. Ray wasn't coming home. She figured that much. Nights where he had to work late were always the ones where she went to bed alone. From the kitchen cabinets she took out a bottle of wine and poured herself a glass. Ray didn't like her drinking. She sipped the wine and walked upstairs. Halfway up the stairs, the lights died. "Power's out," Carol muttered. She carefully picked her way upstairs and into her room. The bed stretched out by the window. It stood dark and cold. With a sigh, she flipped on the electric mattress that she had taken to using. It would take a while to heat up. To kill time, she sat on the window seat and gazed out the window. The scattered bolts of lightning lit up the skyline and glistened in the drops on the window. She sipped her wine. Her mind wandered. Events and people strolled past her vision. Her second-grade teacher, the time she broke her leg rollerblading, her brother in the army, her boss in college, an old boyfriend, the trip to Rome her parents sent her on, her wedding day. Another drum of thunder snapped her out of her thoughts. A stunning bolt of lightning danced across the horizon. When her eyes readjusted, she gasped. Sitting outside her window, on the windowsill, was a young man. He lounged against the outside wall, one leg stretched out in front of him, the other dangling off the edge. Despite the torrential rain, he looked completely dry. Carol stared at him. He was gazing out to the city, paying her no mind. Hello." She tentatively tapped on the glass. The man seemed to notice her for the first time. He smiled. "Evening." His voice was friendly. "What are you doing on my windowsill?" He shrugged. "Don't know. Seems like a nice spot, though. Great view." "Who are you?" He looked familiar. She knew him, but from where? "You tell me." Carol stared at him, her head cocked to the side slightly. He sat smiling, lazily swinging his leg. His eyes seemed to dare her to find an answer. "Alan, that's who you are. You're Alan Zimmerman. We went to college together." He had lived across the hall in their apartment complex with some of her other friends. A group of them would go to the movies or out to karaoke. They had been great friends. "So it would seem," Alan said in that cheeky tone she had almost forgotten. "The last time I saw you was at graduation. How have you been? Wait, how are you sitting on my window ledge? And how are you still dry?" "We'll figure that out later," he said. "Now what were you asking?" "How's life?" she asked. "You tell me." She was surprised. "What do you mean? Tell me what you know of my life." Carol had to think. How long had it been since she had heard from him? She vaguely remembered some Christmas cards for a few years after graduation, and there had been an invite for her and Ray to join him and their old friends at a lake over the summer. Beyond that, she didn't know. "I can't remember. At graduation, you had still been dating Meredith, and I figured you would get married. I know I got a few Christmas cards from you. I think they said you were working in Georgia. I don't remember much else." "Well, that's a shame. We were such good friends back then. When was the last time you called me? Or sent a letter? I mean, we're friends on Facebook, right? I'm not hard to track down." Carol was quiet and gazed into her wine. "Yeah, I guess I could have. Ray and I, we were distant, I guess." "Where is Ray?" Alan's voice was questioning, but under it she could tell that he knew. "He's working late." Her gaze never left the shallow pool of wine left in her glass. "Right. Working late." Alan tapped his chin. "Isn't that what they call it in all those soap operas? when the guy is shacking up with his secretary? He's not! He wouldn't! He... Carol's fire died as quickly as it had lit. She knew. You've known for a while now, haven't you? Alan's voice. It was the same kind tone he had used when her boyfriend broke up with her freshman year. The voice he knew spoke straight to her heart. Tears began to fall. Carol pulled her knees up to her chest, hugged her shoulders, and leaned her head against her legs. Slowly she rocked back and forth. Her whole body shook. Hard to admit to. Never thought it would happen to you, did you? Alan's voice cut into her. Why are you here? Carol screamed at him. You don't get it, do you? Alan shook his head. I'm here because you brought me here. Your sorrow, your denial, the truth brought me here. I am your sorrow. Your what? Her tear-streaked face searched the image sitting outside her window. Everything that haunts you, all the pain and betrayal you feel, all the sorrow that he has laid on you and that you have brought on yourself is what makes me. You see Alan in front of you because I remind you of the times you were happy so long ago. Has so much time passed since you were really happy? Shut up. Carol's voice was weak. Fine. Don't listen to me. Live in your little bubble of misery. I'm not the one who has to deal with it. Alan stretched and hooked his hands behind his head. I'm only here because deep down you can't handle it anymore. Of course, you don't have to listen to me. Not like you ever did. No, she hadn't. Carol could remember that incident between them at the party after graduation, around the bonfire. She had talked with him. After everyone else had gone to bed, and only the two of them were left, they had talked until sunrise. He had warned her about Ray. The two had known each other since they were boys, and Alan knew how Ray was with women. When Carol and Ray had first started dating, Alan advised against it, and when Ray proposed to her at the bonfire, Alan was conspicuously absent. That night she had been angry with him, and accused him of trying to get in the way. He said he knew she would be unhappy. They argued, she cried, and he was gone before anyone else woke up. You tried to warn me. I wouldn't listen. She looked at him. Sitting there outside, the rain and lightning behind him, Alan looked like a ghost. Now you know. You know I was right. You know I was trying to look out for you. You know you made a mistake. His eyes, they were the only things that seemed solid, and they bore into her mind. I couldn't see what was in front of me. I knew better, but I ignored the truth. This is partially my fault. She looked away. So what are you going to do about it? What can I do? Alan shook his head, and we're back to square one. His voice was tinged with annoyance. Do you really think you're powerful? He's broken his vow, and your trust. You're strong and you know how to handle yourself. What you do is get out. Look at this rain. It falls for who knows how long, but it ends eventually. Rain doesn't last forever. Now go and make your own way. Fight for yourself. Carol looked at him again. He was grinning like he had so many times before. He used to tell her, back at school, that she could do anything if she wanted to. He had believed in her then. Why couldn't she believe in herself? She set the wine glass on the dresser by the wall. And just like that, take everything and go. Find something better for myself? Just like that. Okay. She smiled. I won't let him keep me down. I'm worth more than the way he treats me. Got that right. Can it really be that easy? It may not be easy, but the important choices never are. If it's worth it, if God's looking out for you, then you'll find a way. There was a flash of red lightning, so bright it lit up the skyline, followed by the loudest clap of thunder that night. Carol put her hand up to shield her eyes. When she looked back, Alan was gone. She sat watching the rain a little longer. Finally, she crawled into bed. It was warm. When she awoke the next morning, she grabbed a suitcase and began packing. Ray wasn't home. The sun was shining now, and the puddles gleamed in the light. It didn't take her long to get everything in the car she had bought on her own. Before she left, she found some information online. Then she got into the car and drove off, not looking back at the house. On the highway, she dialed a number. "Hi, Alan. It's me, Carol."